tiny, helpless cub, abandoned and alone on the edge of oblivion. No human could reach it. No hope seemed possible. But then, a quiet man, armed with only a rope and a heart full of compassion, defied the impossible. What happened next wasn't just a rescue. It was a silent promise forged between man and wild, a testament to a connection so profound. It could only be a miracle, if you believe God still performs miracles. This story will restore your faith. Before we begin this unforgettable story, would you mind sharing where you're from in the comments, and if stories of love, loyalty, and second chances move you? Please give this video a like and consider subscribing. The crisp autumn air of late September clung to the sprawling city of Missoula, Montana. But Liam Hayes was already dreaming of a different kind of chill, the invigorating bite of the mountain wind. A thin, athletic man in his late 20s. Liam Hayes possessed an earnest face framed by sandy blonde hair that perpetually looked a little wind-tousled, as if he had just emerged from the wilderness he so adored. His eyes, a striking shade of keen blue, often held a distant, contemplative gaze, a testament to his deep immersion in the natural world. As a young biologist and an aspiring wildlife photographer, Liam carried an insatiable curiosity for nature's raw beauty, a yearning that often pulled him away from the bustling urban sprawl and into the hushed majesty of the wild. His nature, though outwardly calm and observant, held a core of quiet determination and a profound sense of responsibility towards the creatures he studied and photographed. Today, his destination was the breathtaking expanse of Glacier National Park, a place he considered both a sanctuary and an unending source of inspiration. He sought not just the serene isolation it offered, but the fleeting, unique moments of untouched nature, a capture of the soul of the wild that only a camera and a patient heart could truly achieve. He envisioned a shot so compelling it would tell its own story, perhaps even gracing the cover of a prestigious nature magazine. The journey north from Missoula was a gradual shedding of civilization, replaced by towering pines, pristine lakes, and the ever-present, majestic peaks of the Rockies. The weather shifted subtly with each mile gained, the city's lingering warmth giving way to the invigorating coolness of the mountain air. Carrying the faint, earthy scent of pine needles and damp soil, Liam drove his trusty, albeit slightly mud-splattered, four-wheel drive, the rhythmic hum of the engine a comforting counterpoint to the growing silence outside. Upon arriving at a secluded trailhead on the park's western edge, nestled deep within a less traveled section of the wilderness, Liam adjusted the straps of his worn, olive-green backpack. The early morning sun, still low on the horizon, cast long, dramatic shadows across the rugged terrain, painting the mountains in hues of deep gold, emerald green, and ancient gray. He inhaled deeply, savoring the crispness, a stark contrast to the exhaust-laden air of city life. His camera bag, meticulously packed with an array of lenses and specialized equipment, felt like a natural extension of his own being. This particular ridge, a remote and challenging ascent he had researched for weeks, was rumored to offer unparalleled views of the valley below and, more importantly, to be home to elusive mountain lions, rarely glimpsed by human eyes. As he trudged along the uneven trail, the crunch of gravel beneath his sturdy hiking boots was the only sound breaking the profound silence. He paused occasionally, his blue eyes scanning the vastness, to snap photos of the towering Douglas firs, their branches reaching like ancient sentinels towards the sky, or to capture the ethereal play of light and shadow on the rocky slopes. Each step felt like a step closer to the extraordinary, a deeper communion with the untamed heart of the land. The trail narrowed considerably as he climbed higher, the drop-off to his right growing more perilous with every winding turn. The air thinned, carrying the scent of pine and the faint, cold tang of distant snow. Suddenly, a faint, high-pitched sound reached his ears, cutting through the stillness. He stopped dead in his tracks, his senses sharpening, every nerve alive. It was a cry, weak, fragile, but persistent. His heart quickened its rhythm, a drumbeat in the quiet wilderness. As he scanned the densely forested area, trying to pinpoint its source, the sound came again. This time more desperate, laced with an undeniable urgency, carefully, with the deliberate movements of someone acutely aware of their precarious position. Liam stepped closer to the edge. He peered over, his breath catching in his throat. Just below him, on an impossibly narrow ledge, clung a tiny mountain lion cub. Its small, tawny frame quivered with palpable fear as it let out another plaintive cry. A sound that tore at Liam's heart, the cub's dark, intelligent eyes darted wildly around, searching for any possible escape, but the jagged rocks above and the sheer, dizzying drop below offered no solace. No way out. Liam quickly assessed the dire situation. The cub had clearly slipped while exploring. Its mother nowhere in sight. A chilling realization in the vastness of the wilderness. The ledge it stood on was barely wide enough to support its tiny weight, and the raging river, a silver ribbon far below, made the scene even more perilous. A pang of helplessness, sharp and immediate, mixed with a surging wave of responsibility washed over him. He whispered to himself, the words barely audible in the vast silence. I can't just leave you here, little one. But how could he possibly help without putting himself in grave danger? His mind raced, calculating possibilities, weighing risks, retrieving a sturdy climbing rope from his backpack. He contemplated if it could support his weight as he attempted what seemed like an impossible rescue. Liam's heart pounded against his ribs as he swiftly tightened the rope around his waist, securing it to a massive, gnarled ponderosa pine tree rooted firmly in the rocky soil, its ancient trunk a silent testament to enduring strength. The cub's cries grew sharper, more insistent, tugging at him with an urgency he couldn't ignore. Against his better judgment, against every instinct that screamed for self-preservation, he made his decision. He knew, with chilling certainty, that climbing down this sheer cliff face would put his life in immediate peril. Yet, the thought of leaving the helpless animal to its inevitable, cruel fate gnawed at him, a relentless ache in his chest. The image of the cub slipping further, plummeting into the roaring river below, was unbearable. He rummaged through his backpack, pulling out a carabiner and a makeshift harness he had ingeniously fashioned from the strong, durable straps of his camera gear. He hesitated briefly, his hands trembling slightly, as he meticulously tested the strength of each knot, a silent prayer escaping his lips. This was not what he had prepared for when he set out that crisp autumn morning, not the serene photographic expedition he had envisioned. He muttered under his breath, reasoning with himself, reminding himself of the potential dangers, the sheer foolishness of his impulsive act. But the plaintive cries of the cub cut through his doubts like a knife, slicing through his carefully constructed logic and pushing him forward. Stepping cautiously to the very edge, Liam glanced down at the ledge. The distance was far greater than he had initially estimated, and the jagged, unforgiving rocks made the descent look even more treacherous. His muscles tensed, coiled with a mixture of fear and adrenaline, as he slowly began lowering himself, gripping the rope tightly, his knuckles white with strain. Each controlled step brought him closer to the trembling cub, but also alarmingly closer to immediate danger. His hiking boots struggled to find solid footing on the crumbling rock face, and loose pebbles skittered down, disappearing into the dizzying depths below with a faint, chilling rattle halfway down. A wave of cold dread washed over him as he considered the harrowing possibility of the mountain lion mother returning. A protective, powerful predator could appear out of nowhere, silent as a shadow, and there would be no escape, no recourse, if she perceived him as a threat to her tiny offspring. He scanned the vast, silent area, his senses heightened, every fiber of his being alert, but the wilderness remained eerily quiet, save for the relentless roar of the distant river, a constant, menacing backdrop to his perilous descent. Even the usual chirping of birds seemed to have faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness. As he descended further, Liam's mind wavered precariously between paralyzing fear and unwavering determination. The cub, sensing his approach, had stopped crying. It was now staring at him, its small, vulnerable body trembling uncontrollably as it pressed itself against the cold, unyielding rock wall. The animal's sheer vulnerability, its desperate helplessness, solidified Liam's resolve. He reassured himself with every strained movement, the words a silent mantra in his mind. "You can do this. You will save the cub. You will make it back to the top unharmed." But the unforgiving cliffside, it seemed, had other, more treacherous plans in store for him. His left foot slipped on a particularly loose, treacherous rock, sending a jolt of pure adrenaline, cold and sharp, through his entire body. He clung to the rope, his knuckles white, muscles screaming, as he desperately tried to steady himself, regain his footing. For a brief, terrifying moment, his mind screamed at him to turn back, to abandon the rescue, to save his own precious life. The seriousness of his situation, the thin line between heroism and disaster, became agonizingly, painfully clear, and yet the cub's wide, pleading eyes, reflecting a raw, primal fear, held him captive, binding him to his selfless, perilous task. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Liam reached the narrow ledge. His feet landed on the precarious outcrop, and he pressed his back against the cold, unyielding cliff face for desperately needed balance. The cub, still trembling, backed away slightly, unsure of this large, strange presence, yet too exhausted, too terrified to offer any real resistance. Liam moved slowly, speaking in a calm, soothing tone, his voice a low murmur against the wind, hoping to gain the tiny animal's trust. The cub whimpered softly, a tiny, fragile sound, but didn't try to escape, its small body shaking with an almost unbearable mix of fear and sheer exhaustion. It pressed itself even further against the cold rock wall, its tiny frame trembling uncontrollably. Liam remained perfectly still for a moment, careful not to startle it, his own body tense, muscles taut from the grueling climb and the sheer, ever-present danger of his position. He knew, with absolute certainty, that any sudden movement could either frighten the cub into a fatal plunge or send them both tumbling into the dark abyss below. He crouched low, balancing precariously on the narrow ledge, and began murmuring softly, his voice steady despite the frantic pounding of his heart against his ribs. He didn't know if the cub could understand the words, but he hoped it could feel the calm, the gentle reassurance in his tone. He made no sudden movements, allowing the cub to observe him, its dark, intelligent eyes darting from his face to his outstretched hands. before glancing nervously at the sheer drop behind it, a silent acknowledgement of their shared peril. Liam slowly reached into his backpack, pulling out the cloth sling he had prepared earlier, a piece of sturdy fabric originally intended for stabilizing his camera. The cub flinched at the motion, its tiny paws scrabbling frantically against the rock in a surge of renewed panic. Liam froze, resuming his steady, soothing murmurs. He took another deliberate step closer, his feet finding tenuous purchase on the unsteady ledge. He felt the rock shift subtly under his weight, and his stomach clenched, a cold knot of fear. The cub's breathing was rapid, its fear almost palpable in the thin mountain air. Liam carefully stretched out the cloth. Holding it open as gently as he possibly could, the cub whimpered, unsure, but too weak, too utterly exhausted, to resist slowly, painstakingly. Liam edged closer, finally reaching the tiny mountain lion. Its fur felt coarse yet surprisingly soft under his fingers as he carefully scooped it into the sling, cradling its trembling weight against his chest. The cub struggled briefly, a faint, desperate attempt to escape, but his murmured reassurances, whispered close to its tiny ear, seemed to soothe it, its small body finally relaxing against him. Just as Liam secured the sling around his chest, feeling the precious weight of Elias nestled safely against him, he heard a sharp, ominous crack. The sound of a loose rock giving way echoed through the canyon, a chilling prelude to disaster. Before he could react, his footing slipped, his body lurched violently sideways, the rope jerking with brutal force against his harness. He swung dangerously over the edge, one hand grasping desperately at the rough, unyielding rock face, a searing, white-hot pain shot through his shoulder as he slammed against the cliffside, the impact jarring his entire body. For a terrifying, endless moment, he thought the rope might give way, his mind racing, breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. The cub whimpered in the sling, its tiny body pressing tightly against him, a fragile, trembling weight, summoning every ounce of strength, every reserve of will. Liam pushed himself upright, his injured shoulder throbbing with each agonizing movement. He steadied himself on the narrow ledge, his legs trembling uncontrollably as he adjusted his grip on the rope, the coarse fibers biting into his skin. The climb back up, he knew, now seemed an even more daunting, agonizing task than the descent. His shoulder ached with every pull, the pain sharp, unrelenting, a constant reminder of the danger he was in, but the warm, trembling weight of the cub against his chest, the small, trusting breaths, reminded him of why he couldn't give up, why he had to keep fighting. The ascent was agonizingly slow, each step heavier than the last, the strain on his injured arm making it nearly unbearable. Sweat dripped down his face, stinging his eyes, but he focused, his gaze fixed on the rope, on the small reassuring tug of the ponderosa pine above, holding his weight. Finally, with one last, desperate pull. Liam hoisted himself in the cub over the edge. He collapsed onto the solid, unforgiving ground, his chest heaving, gasping for air, lungs burning. The cub let out a soft cry, still trembling faintly in the sling, its small heart beating a frantic rhythm against his. Liam lay there for a moment, the pain in his shoulder a dull, persistent throb now, a small price for the wave of overwhelming relief that washed over him. He unfastened the sling, his fingers fumbling slightly with the buckles, and carefully placed the cub on the soft pine needle-covered earth. The cub looked at him, its wide, dark eyes filled with what Liam could only describe as cautious trust, a primal acknowledgement of his aid. He leaned back against the sturdy pine tree, his body aching, every muscle screaming in protest, but his heart full, overflowing with a profound sense of accomplishment and a strange, nascent joy. He had done it. He had saved Elias, but something deep within him, a primal instinct honed by years in the wild, whispered that this ordeal wasn't truly over. Days blurred into a week following the harrowing rescue of Elias. Liam's shoulder, though still a dull throb, was healing, a constant reminder of the primal encounter. He had settled back into the quiet rhythm of his cabin, a rustic haven nestled at the edge of the sprawling forest, its solitude a comforting balm after the intense adrenaline of the rescue. Yet, something about the experience lingered, a subtle shift in the very fabric of his days. He couldn't shake the feeling that the mountain lion mother's gaze had been more than just a look. It had carried a profound depth, almost as though she had made a silent promise, an unspoken acknowledgement of his deed. The first strange occurrence happened 2 nights later, as Liam stepped outside in the early morning light, carrying his camera gear for a planned photographic expedition. He noticed something peculiar. Deep, unmistakable claw marks were etched into the sturdy wooden post of his porch, rough and splintered, as if made only hours before. His initial thought was a wandering bear, a common enough occurrence in these parts, but the positioning of the marks, low, deliberate, almost placed, felt different, as though they were meant to be noticed. A silent message left just for him, shrugging it off as coincidence, a trick of the light. Liam continued with his day, but later, as he walked along a familiar winding trail, he saw something else unusual. A small, meticulously arranged pile of freshly caught fish and plump forest berries sat neatly on a flat, smooth rock, untouched and oddly out of place. Nearby animals, particularly cunning foxes or even a hungry lynx, would have devoured such an offering quickly. Yet it remained, as if left undisturbed, intended solely for him. A chill, light as a mountain breeze, ran down Liam's spine. He glanced into the trees, his keen blue eyes scanning the dense forest edge, but saw nothing. Still, he couldn't shake the unsettling sense of being watched, a palpable presence just beyond his sight. That night, as he prepared for bed, a faint rustling outside his cabin caught his attention. Peeking through the window, he saw nothing out of place, but the forest seemed quieter than usual, a profound stillness that spoke volumes. Days passed, and the strange occurrences continued, each morning bringing more signs. A fresh, distinct claw mark on a nearby towering pine, mirroring those on his porch. Small piles of precisely arranged food, sometimes a perfectly untouched rabbit, other times a collection of wild mushrooms along his usual paths, always at a safe, respectful distance from his cabin. It wasn't random, it felt intentional, almost like a deliberate pattern, as though someone or something was trying to communicate with him, leaving silent offerings, unspoken thanks. The unsettling feeling of being watched deepened, morphing from mere unease into a curious anticipation. Then, one quiet afternoon, as Liam was sketching in his notebook on his porch, he spotted them, standing at the very edge of the forest. Just beyond the clearing that surrounded his cabin was the mountain lion mother, a magnificent, powerful creature of raw muscle and grace. Her cub, Elias, stood close by her side, still small but visibly stronger, more vibrant than when Liam had rescued him. The mother's gaze was fixed on Liam, calm and steady, an ancient, knowing look that held no aggression, only deep observation. She didn't move closer, nor did she make a sound, her dark eyes piercing the distance. Liam stood frozen on his porch, a mixture of awe and trepidation washing over him, watching the majestic predators as they watched him. The cub seemed curious, taking small, tentative steps forward before retreating back to its mother's protective side. Liam dared not move, unsure of what the mother desired or why she had returned after weeks of absence, after what felt like an eternity. The mountain lion mother nudged Elias gently with her nose, turned slowly, and melted back toward the forest. They disappeared into the dense trees, leaving Liam standing in stunned silence. He didn't know why she had come, but her presence felt deliberate, as if she were watching over him, a silent guardian emerging from the emerald depths of the wilderness. From that day forward, Liam noticed more signs of her presence, tracks around his cabin, always at a safe distance, and sometimes the faint rustling of leaves in the forest nearby. It was as though the mountain lion had claimed the area around his cabin, ensuring his safety, a silent, powerful protection. Liam couldn't explain it, but he felt an odd sense of security, a deep, undeniable connection. Whatever bond had been formed that day on the cliff, it hadn't ended when Elias and his mother disappeared into the forest. It had only just begun. A week later, Liam ventured out on another hike, his camera firmly in hand, exploring a new, less traveled trail. The forest was alive with the familiar chorus of birdsong and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. He felt at ease, the earlier unease from the strange events fading into the background, replaced by the profound peace only the wilderness could offer. But as he rounded a sharp bend in the trail, the forest fell eerily silent. The sudden absence of sound was unnerving, and Liam stopped dead in his tracks, his senses alert. A low, menacing growl echoed through the woods, deep and guttural. Liam turned slowly, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs, as he spotted the source of the sound, a formidable grizzly bear, a massive, shaggy creature with powerful shoulders and piercing black eyes. Crouched a few feet away, its gaze locked onto him. The predator's muscles were coiled, ready to pounce, a terrifying display of raw power. Liam's mind raced, his body frozen in a primal fear. Just as the grizzly shifted, preparing to strike, a thunderous, defiant roar shattered the silence. From the dense trees, the mountain lion mother charged forward, a blur of tawny fur and rippling muscle, her massive frame barreling toward the grizzly. The bear hesitated, its predatory focus broken by the sudden, unexpected threat. The mountain lion roared again, louder this time, a guttural challenge that echoed through the pines. The grizzly, clearly outmatched in this sudden, territorial clash, bolted into the underbrush, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Liam stood rooted to the spot, his breath shallow, his body trembling from the sheer terror of the encounter. Elias appeared moments later, peeking out from behind a thick tree, his small eyes wide. Liam's shock quickly gave way to a strange, overwhelming sense of gratitude. The mountain lion had saved him, not once, but twice. The mother didn't linger. She nudged her cub forward, her calm demeanor unchanged, and they retreated into the forest, the same protective aura surrounding her. It was then, in that moment of profound realization, that Liam truly understood. They weren't just watching him, they were actively protecting him from that moment on. Liam felt a connection to the mountain lions that went beyond any rational explanation. They had become a part of his life, silent guardians of the wilderness they all called home. Meanwhile, miles away in a bustling city office, Sarah Jenkins worked tirelessly. She was a woman in her late 30s, tall and slender, with an almost wiry energy that belied her seemingly calm demeanor. Her sharp, intelligent features were framed by a cascade of dark, wavy hair, often tied back haphazardly when she was deep in thought. Sarah's most striking features were her eyes, a piercing shade of emerald green that missed nothing, reflecting both her keen intellect and an unyielding determination. She had built a formidable reputation as an environmental investigative journalist, known for her relentless pursuit of truth and her unflinching courage in exposing corruption and environmental crimes. Her career had been shaped by a childhood spent in a small logging town that had been ravaged by unsustainable practices, instilling in her a fierce dedication to protecting natural resources. This experience had forged a resilient, tenacious spirit, making her both respected and feared in her field. Sarah didn't suffer fools gladly and had a reputation for being fiercely independent, sometimes even a little abrasive. But those who knew her well recognized a deep well of passion and integrity beneath the sharp exterior. Sarah had been following whispers of increased poaching activity in the Glacier National Park area for weeks. Her sources, a network of park rangers and concerned locals, hinted at an organized ring, far more sophisticated than the usual lone hunters, the recent rumors, which had slowly filtered into her tightly knit circle of environmental contacts, about a young biologist who had rescued a mountain lion cub, and the subsequent, almost mythical, appearances of a large, protective mother mountain lion had piqued her considerable interest. These stories, while seemingly far-fetched, fit a pattern Sarah had observed before. Whenever organized environmental crime increased, the natural world often seemed to respond in unexpected ways. She began cross-referencing incident reports with local news snippets, looking for anomalies, for patterns. Liam Hayes's name kept surfacing, a recurring thread in the tapestry of strange events. Sarah felt a familiar prickle of journalistic instinct. There was a bigger story here, she knew it, a narrative far more complex than simple poaching. She began to plan her trip to Montana, determined to uncover the truth, unaware that her path was about to converge with that of a man and his unlikely, powerful protectors. The days that followed Liam's dramatic rescue by the mountain lion mother instilled in him a profound sense of purpose. He no longer viewed the forest merely as a subject for his lens, but as a living, breathing entity with its own ancient protectors. The mountain lion mother, as if sensing his deepening connection and trust, began to subtly guide him. She would sometimes appear at the edge of his cabin clearing, her piercing gaze calm and expectant, waiting for him to follow, trusting his instincts. Liam obliged, venturing deeper into territories he had never explored before. She led him to untouched parts of the forest, hidden clearings bathed in ethereal sunlight, bursting with rare plants and vibrant wildflowers he'd never seen before, and an astonishing array of wildlife that seemed almost unearthly in its pristine beauty. Liam felt as though he had been granted a key to a secret world, one only the mountain lions could unlock. Each step he took deepened the unspoken bond between him and the wilderness. The mountain lions had become more than just creatures of the wild. They were his guides, his vigilant, silent protectors. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been chosen for something greater, a role he didn't yet fully comprehend. One crisp morning, the air was still, too still. An uneasy feeling settled over Liam as he noticed broken branches and fresh tracks along a path the mountain lion mother had recently shown him. These prints weren't from animals. They were deep, heavy boot marks, heading straight toward the forest's heart. Liam quickened his pace, a cold knot of fear gnawing at him. As he reached a secluded clearing, the mountain lion mother and Elias appeared, their movements cautious, their demeanor tense. The mother sniffed the air, a low growl rumbling in her chest. Liam froze as the distinct sound of muffled voices and snapping twigs echoed nearby. He crouched low, scanning the area through the dense foliage. There. He spotted them. A group of men armed with rifles, their movements methodical, their eyes scanning for any sign of prey. Poachers. Liam's heart sank, a heavy stone in his chest, as he realized the imminent danger not only to the mountain lions, but to the fragile ecosystem of the entire forest. These weren't simple hunters. Their calculated movements, their advanced gear, spoke of something far more sinister. The poachers set up a crude ambush near the clearing, baiting the area with fresh meat to lure wildlife. Liam stayed hidden, holding his breath, as the mountain lion mother, her instincts sharp and true, led Elias away from the immediate trap. But the poachers were persistent, moving closer to the mountain lion's retreat. Liam knew he couldn't stay silent any longer. He threw a rock toward the opposite side of the clearing, creating a loud noise that instantly drew the poachers' attention. They turned, weapons raised, and headed in the wrong direction, their angry shouts echoing through the trees, using the distraction. Liam moved swiftly, following the mountain lions, ensuring their continued safety. The trio found refuge in a thick grove of ancient trees. Liam whispered reassurances to himself as the mountain lion mother stood protectively over her cub. The tension was palpable. Every rustle of leaves, every distant chirp, amplified in the oppressive silence. They waited until the voices of the poachers faded, the forest swallowing their intrusive presence. Liam knew this wasn't over. Once the coast was clear, he returned to his cabin and immediately contacted local authorities and wildlife protection agencies. He described the poachers' activities and their potential threat to the forest's wildlife. However, his claims were met with skepticism, without solid evidence, without a concrete, undeniable link. The officials were hesitant to take action, frustrated but undeterred. Liam realized he would need to take matters into his own hands. He needed someone with influence, someone who understood the gravity of environmental crime. His thoughts immediately turned to Professor Eris Thorne. Eris was a man in his early 60s, with a kindly face framed by a wild mane of silver-gray hair that seemed to have a life of its own. He moved with a gentle, scholarly air, but his eyes, a warm, intelligent hazel, sparkled with an almost childlike enthusiasm when discussing ancient cultures or ecological mysteries. Eris was a renowned archaeologist and ethnobotanist at the nearby university, known globally for his work on indigenous folklore and the deep connection between native communities and their natural environments. He carried himself with a quiet dignity, but his mind was a vast library of knowledge, and he possessed an unwavering belief in the wisdom of ancient traditions. Liam had met him briefly at a conservation seminar years ago, and had always been impressed by Eris's blend of academic rigor and genuine respect for the spiritual aspects of nature. Liam hoped Eris would not dismiss his fantastical story of the protective mountain lions. Liam called Eris, pouring out his extraordinary tale to his relief. Eris listened intently, his initial academic curiosity quickly morphing into palpable excitement. When Liam mentioned the ancient markings in the cave, the ones that hinted at a long-held legend of protective mountain lions, Eris's face lit up with profound understanding. He explained the legend of the guardians of the wild, an old Native American story passed down through generations. According to the tale, mountain lions chosen by the forest spirit would guard the land and protect those who showed them kindness. The markings in the cave, he suggested, could indeed be tied to this very legend. Liam couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had always respected nature, but never imagined becoming part of something so mystical, so deeply entwined with ancient lore. Aris urged him to be cautious, warning that some legends held power that shouldn't be taken lightly, that disturbing ancient sites could have unforeseen consequences. Still, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that the mountain lion's actions had profound meaning, as if they were intrinsically connected to this ancient story in ways he had yet to fully understand. Aris, equally intrigued, agreed to come to the park immediately to examine the cave and its carvings. Meanwhile, in her high-rise office, Sarah Jenkins was meticulously piecing together fragments of information. She had a wall plastered with maps, incident reports, and mugshots, a spiderweb of connections slowly emerging. Her sources confirmed that the poaching ring wasn't just targeting deer or elk. They were after something far more valuable, something often found deep within protected lands, rare medicinal plants, and possibly mineral deposits. She suspected a much larger, darker organization was behind this, using the poachers as their front line. Her investigation led her to a shadowy corporation, Terra Harvest Solutions, a seemingly legitimate mining and pharmaceutical company with a history of questionable environmental practices. Their recent land acquisitions around the perimeter of Glacier National Park seemed too coincidental. Sarah realized this network was far more dangerous, more entrenched than she had initially imagined. She needed more than whispers. She needed hard evidence, undeniable proof. The rumors of the mountain lion man in Glacier kept circling back. A biologist who rescued a cub, then claimed to be protected by its mother. It sounded wild, but Sarah had learned to trust her gut, and her gut told her there was truth, or at least a crucial piece of the puzzle. In Liam Hayes' story, he could be her key to unlocking the full scope of this ecological crime. She decided to find a way to contact Liam, convinced he held information vital to her investigation. She made a few discreet calls, using her network of contacts to track down the most reliable way to reach him without alerting unwanted attention. The clock was ticking, and she felt an urgent need to act before more irreparable damage was done to the precious wilderness she fought so tirelessly to protect. The urgency in Liam's voice had been undeniable, even over the crackling phone line, prompting Professor Aris Thorne to pack his bags and travel to Glacier National Park with an alacrity uncommon for a man of his academic rigor. Aris arrived at Liam's rustic cabin a few days later, a scholarly figure amidst the wild landscape, carrying a worn leather satchel filled with historical texts and field guides. His hazel eyes, usually sparkling with intellectual curiosity, held a new gravity as Liam recounted the recent encounters with poachers and the unsettling mystery of the ancient cave. Together, they ventured deep into the forest, Liam leading the way, with a quiet confidence born of intimate knowledge of the land, while Ares absorbed every detail, his mind alight with connections between Liam's experiences and the old legends he had dedicated his life to studying. They spent the next few days meticulously documenting the cave carvings. Liam, with his keen photographer's eye, captured every intricate detail, his high-resolution images preserving the ancient narrative etched into the stone. Aris, meanwhile, used his profound knowledge of indigenous cultures to interpret the symbols, carefully translating the story of the guardians of the wild, a sacred trust passed down through generations of mountain lions. protecting the forest and those who honored it. Liam's experiences with Elias and his mother, once seemingly fantastical, now resonated with the undeniable weight of ancient prophecy as they worked. Elias and his mother occasionally appeared, moving like silent, tawny ghosts at the edge of the clearing, their watchful presence a tangible reassurance. They seemed to sense Liam's purpose, leading him subtly to areas where the poachers had recently been active, revealing freshly disturbed earth, the remnants of snares, or the distinct scent of human intrusion. Liam, in turn, used this intelligence to mark down their patterns, meticulously mapping their incursions, building a detailed dossier of their illegal activities. Eris, meanwhile, began preparing a detailed report for various historical and conservation societies, hoping to garner external support and legitimacy for their claims. Knowing that official intervention often required irrefutable academic backing, unbeknownst to them, Sarah Jenkins was already closing in. Her investigation into Terra Harvest Solutions had uncovered alarming links between the seemingly legitimate corporation and the increased poaching. She had found shell companies, suspicious land deeds, and financial transactions pointing to a vast, illegal operation aimed at plundering Glacier's resources, rare medicinal plants. Not just timber or game. Her journalistic instincts screamed that this was bigger than isolated incidents. It was a systematic attack on a national treasure. Armed with her initial findings, Sarah had made the long drive to Glacier, her determined spirit pushing her forward. She found Liam's cabin with surprising ease, thanks to a tip from a sympathetic park ranger who had heard whispers of Liam's unusual encounters. The first meeting between Liam and Sarah was a study in contrasts. Liam, initially guarded, his blue eyes assessing her with a natural caution honed by solitude and recent events, found himself facing a woman whose intensity matched his own. Sarah Jenkins stood tall and lean, her posture radiating an almost electric energy. Her dark, wavy hair, usually pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, was escaping in tendrils around her sharply intelligent features. Her emerald green eyes, deep and piercing, held an unwavering gaze that suggested she saw through any pretense. Sarah spoke with a directness that could be disarming, but there was an underlying current of passion that betrayed her professional objectivity. She quickly laid out her findings, the cold, hard facts of corporate greed and environmental destruction. Her voice steady and authoritative. Liam, initially skeptical of her journalistic motives, found his reservations dissolving as he listened to her articulate the scale of the threat. When he, in turn, began to cautiously share his story, the rescue of Elias, the protective acts of the mountain lion mother, the ancient cave and its legends, Sarah's eyes widened, a flicker of awe briefly softening their intensity. She was a woman of logic and evidence, but she also possessed an innate understanding of the profound mysteries of the natural world. A protector legend, she murmured, leaning forward, her usual skepticism overridden by a thrilling sense of discovery. This changes everything. The convergence of their distinct expertise proved to be a formidable alliance. Liam, with his intimate knowledge of the forest, the behavior of the mountain lions, and his photographic evidence of the poacher's presence, provided the crucial on-the-ground intelligence. Aris, with his academic gravitas and his interpretation of the ancient prophecy, gave their efforts historical context and a compelling narrative, lending weight to their unconventional claims. And Sarah, with her sharp investigative skills, her extensive network, and her unwavering commitment to exposing the truth, became their voice to the outside world, the one who could transform their findings into a call to action. They spent the next few days in a flurry of activity. Liam tracking the poachers' movements, setting up discreet camera traps near their usual paths. He scattered the area with natural markers, distinct scratches on specific trees, overturned stones that only Elias and his mother would recognize, guiding them away from potential danger. Sarah, meanwhile, coordinated with her contacts at a National Wildlife Protection Agency, preparing a comprehensive report filled with Liam's photos and Eris's historical context, lobbying for reinforcements to be sent to the park. Eris, in turn, reached out to Indigenous elders, seeking their wisdom and support, ensuring that their actions respected the ancient traditions of the land. One quiet evening, as the last rays of sun painted the western peaks in hues of purple and orange, Liam spotted them. The poachers, their numbers seemingly larger than before, were near a grove of exceptionally rare bioluminescent plants, a species Liam and Eris believed to be the focus of Terra Harvest Solutions' illegal activities. The men worked swiftly, uprooting the delicate treasures with practiced, brutal efficiency. Liam couldn't confront them directly. He was outnumbered and outgunned. But he had his camera. He crept closer, a phantom in the deepening twilight, capturing photo and video evidence, determined to expose their crimes. As he moved through the undergrowth, the distinct, low growl of the mountain lion mother echoed through the forest, a potent warning. The poachers froze, their flashlights darting wildly, their faces etched with a sudden, primal fear. The mountain lion mother's powerful presence, a force of nature personified, forced them to retreat, their hurried footsteps fading into the darkness. But Liam knew they wouldn't stay away for long. Time was running out, and the forest's rare gifts were at stake. The tension in the air became suffocating as Liam, Sarah, and Eris. Now joined by a small dedicated team of volunteers Sarah had managed to mobilize from nearby towns, locals who had heard her initial reports and felt a fierce loyalty to their land, worked through the night. Officer Ben Carter, a seasoned park ranger with a weathered face and a gruff but honest demeanor. Initially skeptical but convinced by Sarah's compelling evidence, was also among them. He provided invaluable expertise in forest safety and legal protocols. Every sound in the forest felt amplified. The crunch of leaves underfoot, the distant hoot of an owl, and, most ominously, a faint, rhythmic humming that grew steadily louder. The carved stone Liam carried in his pocket, a relic from the ancient cave, grew heavier, subtly vibrating, a silent reminder of the immense stakes, unbeknownst to the poachers, and to most of Liam's team. The forest itself was not silent. Elias and his mother, joined by other animals of the wild, deer darting through the trees to lead poachers astray, flocks of birds swooping low to scatter them. Even a pair of hawks circling ominously overhead were already on the move. The forest seemed alive with resistance, each creature playing its instinctive part in protecting their home. Then, a terrifying new element entered the fray. A faint scent of smoke, growing stronger, began to permeate the air. Somewhere deep in the woods, the dry heat of weeks without rain, combined with the poachers' recklessness, had sparked an uncontrollable blaze. The flames were spreading fast, a roaring inferno threatening to consume everything. Liam's chest tightened in panic. What began as a tense standoff had now turned into a desperate race against a raging forest fire. The mountain lion mother's guttural growl cut through the crackling of the fire. She nudged Elias, urging him to move, and Liam quickly followed, his heart pounding in rhythm with their hurried, desperate steps. The forest seemed alive with chaos. Branches snapped overhead, embers floated like fiery insects, and the once green sanctuary was cloaked in an ominous orange glow. Behind them, the poachers shouted in desperation. They hadn't anticipated the fire either, and were now caught in the same deadly web. Liam glanced back, his instincts warring between helping the men and ensuring his own survival. And more importantly, the safety of Elias and his mother. The mountain lion mother growled again, her urgency unmistakable, pulling him forward. Liam pushed ahead, knowing he couldn't afford to hesitate. The carved stone in his pocket grew warm, its surface vibrating faintly, guiding him through the smoke. The path ahead was treacherous, blocked by fallen trees and burning undergrowth. The mountain lion mother, surprisingly calm amidst the inferno, led the way, her movements steady and sure, as they neared a steep incline. The ground beneath Liam's feet gave way, sending him sliding down a rocky slope. He landed hard, the carved stone tumbling from his pocket, glowing faintly on the ash-covered ground. The mountain lion mother roared, leaping down after him, Elias close behind. Liam scrambled to his feet, scooping up the stone. Its faint pulse seemed to illuminate a path through the dense, suffocating smoke. The poachers reappeared, their faces streaked with soot, desperation etched into their expressions. They stumbled through the flames, coughing and disoriented, their weapons abandoned in the chaos. For a moment, their eyes met Liam's, and he saw not malice, but raw, desperate fear. But there was no time to dwell on their plight. Liam spotted the explosives, their timers displaying less than 3 minutes, ominously ticking down near the cave entrance, their glow illuminated by the flickering flames. Liam knew he had to act fast. He signaled to the volunteers and Officer Carter to stay back while he crept closer, his heart pounding. The mountain lion mother appeared from the shadows, Elias trailing behind. She let out a low growl, drawing the poachers' attention. They froze, their hands trembling, before the mother mountain lion charged, scattering them like leaves in the wind. Elias stayed hidden. But the sudden appearance of other animals, wolves, foxes, even a pair of hawks circling above, created absolute chaos, disorienting the remaining poachers amidst the commotion. Liam reached the explosives, his hands trembling as he began cutting wires, relying on instinct and the faint vibration of the carved stone to guide him. Sweat dripped down his face as he worked, the sounds of the coordinated animal attack keeping the poachers at bay. One of the poachers, desperate and cornered, spotted Liam and raised a weapon before he could take aim. The mountain lion mother intervened, her massive form blocking his path. The poacher stumbled backward, his fear outweighing his greed. He dropped his weapon and fled, abandoning his comrades, as the final wire was severed. Liam breathed a sigh of relief. Too soon. A stray spark from a damaged explosive ignited a small, secondary blast, throwing Liam backward. The sound echoed through the forest, sending birds scattering into the smoky sky. The mountain lion mother rushed to Liam's side, nudging him gently, though dazed and injured. He managed to stand. Clutching the carved stone tightly, the remaining poachers, defeated and terrified, were captured by the volunteers and Officer Carter, who had arrived with local authorities. Liam watched as the mountain lion mother and Elias retreated into the forest, their forms blending into the shadows. The forest had won, but not without cost. Liam's injuries served as a painful reminder of the dangers they had faced together, days after the terrifying explosion and the raging wildfire. Liam awoke in a hospital bed, his body aching but miraculously alive. His shoulder throbbed, a dull but persistent pain, but a profound sense of relief washed over him, eclipsing any discomfort. Sarah Jenkins sat nearby, her emerald eyes lighting up with genuine warmth when she saw him stir. Her usual journalistic intensity was softened by evident concern. She told him how the local community, galvanized by her rapid-fire reports and the undeniable evidence of the poacher's crimes, had rallied around him, calling him a hero for his bravery. Liam, however, didn't feel like a hero. His thoughts drifted to the forest, to Elias and his mother, and to the ancient carved stone that had pulsed with life and guided him through the smoke and chaos. His injuries felt like a small price to pay for saving something so precious, so ancient. As Liam recovered, a steady stream of visitors came to thank him. Stoic locals who had once viewed him with suspicion, passionate environmentalists from distant cities, and even wide-eyed children who had grown up exploring the very forest he had helped save. The poachers were swiftly prosecuted, their crimes laid bare for all to see. Largely thanks to Sarah's meticulously documented evidence and her compelling articles that ignited public outrage. With their immediate threat eliminated, the forest, though scarred, began its slow, arduous journey of healing. New shoots sprouted where fires had once raged, and animals, sensing the return of peace, cautiously returned to their homes. The community, inspired by Liam's dedication and the powerful story of the guardians of the wild, worked tirelessly to protect their treasured land. Under the quiet guidance of Officer Ben Carter and the tireless efforts of the many volunteers, they established protected zones, planted thousands of young trees, and educated others about the vital importance of conservation. Liam, now fully recovered, returned to his cabin at the forest's edge. The scars on his shoulder were fading, but the deeper marks of his experience, a profound understanding of nature's interconnectedness and a strengthened purpose, remained. Elias, now visibly stronger and larger, and his magnificent mother visited occasionally, their appearances like silent blessings. Elias, growing into a formidable young mountain lion, would sometimes approach Liam's cabin, his eyes holding that same knowing intelligence, a silent acknowledgement of their shared history. Liam felt a deep, unspoken connection to them, a bond forged in fire and danger. Unlike anything he had ever known, the carved stone, the ancient relic that had pulsed with warmth during their darkest hour, remained on his desk, a constant, tangible reminder of the extraordinary journey he had undertaken. Liam dedicated himself fully to forest preservation, leading community efforts and documenting its burgeoning beauty for the world to see. The forest, once a battleground, had become a potent symbol of unity and resilience, a testament to what could be achieved when humanity and nature stood together, side by side. He began giving talks at local schools and community centers. His voice, once quiet and reserved, now resonating with conviction as he shared the tale of Elias and his mother. Meanwhile, Professor Eris Thorne became a pivotal figure in cementing the scientific and historical legitimacy of Liam's claims. Eris, invigorated by the tangible proof of ancient legends, secured grants for further research into the ecological and cultural significance of Glacier National Park. He brought in teams of ethnobotanists and ecologists to study the unique flora and fauna, many species previously thought extinct or undiscovered, which thrived in the deeper, untouched parts of the forest, areas Liam had discovered with the mountain lion mother's guidance. Aris also worked tirelessly with local Native American tribes to preserve their traditional stories and practices, ensuring the guardians of the wild legend was passed down authentically. His academic work provided a crucial framework for the conservation efforts, attracting global attention and funding. Sarah Jenkins, true to her tenacious spirit, didn't stop at exposing the poachers. She launched a national campaign, using her considerable influence as an investigative journalist to expose the wider corporate network behind Terra Harvest Solutions. Her articles and documentaries, featuring Liam's compelling story and his breathtaking photographs, galvanized public opinion across the nation. She testified before congressional committees, lobbied tirelessly for stronger environmental protection laws, and became a fierce advocate for national parks and wildlife. Her dedication led to a landmark legal victory, with Terra Harvest Solutions facing massive fines and strict new regulations, setting a precedent for environmental corporate accountability. Sarah, though often traveling, remained in close contact with Liam and Eris, their shared purpose forging a bond of mutual respect and admiration. Her personality, once seen as solely sharp and analytical, now shone with a clear, unwavering moral compass, inspiring countless others to join the fight for environmental justice. Years later, the rare plant Liam had discovered, guided by the mountain lion mother, became a key component in saving countless lives. Researchers, inspired by Liam's story and funded by global conservation efforts spurred by Sarah and Eris's work, diligently cultivated the plant in secure, ethical environments. Hospitals and research facilities worldwide began using its medicinal properties to treat diseases that had once been untreatable, a silent testament to nature's profound healing power. Liam often thought of Elias and his mother when he read reports of the lives saved, imagining them watching over him still, their gift continuing to make a difference across the world. As time passed, Liam grew older. The cabin at the forest's edge became both a refuge and a place of quiet reflection. He often sat on the porch, gazing at the woods, his mind filled with memories of whispered warnings, desperate rescues, and the silent, watchful eyes of his wild protectors. The carved stone remained on his desk, its faint glow a steady reminder, as if the forest still watched over him, its ancient spirit intertwined with his own. One winter morning, as a fresh blanket of snow hushed the world, Liam received a letter. It was an invitation to receive an international award for his lifetime contributions to conservation. The recognition was humbling, but Liam's thoughts drifted back to the mountain lions. They had given him more than a story, they had given him purpose, a profound reason to dedicate his life to something greater than himself. On the night of the ceremony, Liam stood before a packed audience, a figure of quiet strength. He spoke not of himself, but of the forest, of Elias and his mother, and of the invaluable lessons they had taught him about coexistence and the delicate balance of life. He shared how their gift had saved countless lives and how the bond between humanity and nature, forged through kindness and respect, could heal even the deepest wounds. After the applause faded, a wave of profound peace washed over Liam. He knew his work would continue, not just through his own efforts, but through the countless people he had inspired. The forest, the mountain lions, and the carved stone had become a legacy far greater than he could have ever imagined, an enduring symbol of courage, compassion, and the enduring power of the wild. Here is the concluding moral of the story, incorporating themes of grace, a call to action, and spiritual reflection, suitable for your YouTube video, The Enduring Lesson. As Liam gazed upon the vibrant, flourishing forest, a testament to courage and unity, he understood that the true miracle wasn't just the saving of a cub or the triumph over greed, but the profound awakening within human hearts. It was a divine whisper, a gentle reminder that God's grace manifests not only in grand, awe-inspiring moments, but also in the quiet determination of a single individual, the unwavering loyalty of a wild creature, and the strength found when communities unite. This story of Liam and Elias, of a bond forged in the wild and sealed by unseen protection, teaches us that kindness, whether extended to a lost cub or a fellow human in need, creates ripples that can transform the world. It reminds us that every living being holds intrinsic value, a piece of God's magnificent creation, and that by honoring this truth, we begin to restore the balance that has been disrupted for so long. It's a call to look beyond our fears, to see the inherent goodness and the divine spark in every corner of creation. May this tale inspire you to embrace your own role as a guardian, to find grace in everyday acts of compassion, and to witness the miracles that unfold when we open our hearts to the world around us. If this story touched your spirit and resonated with your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Liam's journey spoke most deeply to you? And may God bless each and every one of you who joined us on this journey. Comment Amen if you believe in the power of kindness and divine protection.